Good morning. Excuse my cold today. Um, this is the start of the January 11th finance meeting for ESS. First off, we can go ahead with the approval of the minutes from last meeting.
This is Sherry. I can move to approve.
Thank you, Sherry. Is there a second?
This is Geraldine. I'll second.
Thank you, Geraldine. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Motion approved. Next off will be the accounts receivable update.
Hi, it's Lisa. I can get that update. I have a new contact at Simplifile that will get that money to us this month. And then Sorensen and Fichter, those are the results of failed payments on e-submission. We've retried Sorensen, so we should have that money this week. And Clint over at Fichter will send us a check. So I think we're in good shape there. And then we've got the Claris invoice. So we should be good. Thanks, everyone. Do you have questions, anyone?
Thank you, Lisa. Next off is the summary of ESS payments.
Okay, thank you. So what we have on screen right now is the basically the accounts payable. These are the payments that we make through online banking. Basically, the system generates checks and which are then sent to the vendor. I don't have anything outstanding to report. If you're interested, the reimbursement for Corey Strasser was related to shredding of old documents that needed to be securely disposed of. She took care of that, and then we reimbursed her the cost of getting that done. And then I think everything else is for that month of December is fairly standard. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about it. And then also in the payments report is the credit card report for the credit card payments that were made in December. And I have highlighted a few of those. One of them is the annual subscription to Zoom. We are now using Zoom as our primary platform for meetings, webinars, and other things that we need to do online. And there isn't a subscription associated with that. The amount that's specified is the combined annual subscription for the use of the Zoom meeting platform. And then in addition to that, we have a subscription to the webinar tools. So those are two separate but related things, and they're all covered by that same subscription. Gravity Forms is something that we implemented last year and we are retaining. If you are a customer and you want to submit an application to have access to either the e-submission service or the search service, those application forms are now on the WordPress website. And Gravity Forms is a tool. It's essentially a plugin that you use for forms. Other forms that we create use the same tool. Our standard customer service support form uses that same thing. And then the other that I would highlight is that we do have an ongoing subscription to MailChimp that is over $500 a month, but it is a fairly robust platform. We did discontinue for 2024 some subscriptions that we were using. One of them is an example of that is there's a product called Adobe Technical Communications Suite that we use to generate software demonstration videos and other educational tools. We've discontinued that subscription. A number of other smaller things were discontinued at the end of the year, just to make the necessary adjustments in the budget that we have done. I'm also would point out that we did have a slight decrease in our Amazon Web Service expenses. It was approaching $900 a month, and totally made a few adjustments in that reduced our utilization just marginally, but it did save us a few dollars. I would be happy to answer any question about other items listed in either the AP report or in the credit card report for the month of December. Any questions? If not, I would request a action to accept and approve the payment reports for this month.
Is there a motion?
This is Geraldine. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Geraldine. Is there a second?
This is Sherry. I could second.
Is there anyone opposed? If not, oh, please say aye. Sorry.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion approved.
Okay, that was kind of backwards there, Amy, but that
Okay,
was perfect
okay.
in the end.
Sorry, I saw Sherry.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Sherry
I
had
would-
in the comments here if there's to
Yeah,
ask
no.
if there's any opposed. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
Now Phil will be going over payment invoices.
Right. This is a monthly invoice that we submit to the state treasurer's office for Fund 255. Before the end of the year, we did have a meeting with the staff of the state treasurer's office and had a very good discussion, caught up on a lot of things and went over procedures and kind of reintroduced ourselves because there have been, and actually there has been since a change in staffing on the people that are handling these particular issues. So it was very good to meet with the lead administrative team in the treasurer's office. One of the things that we talked about was how we are submitting the invoices. In recent history, going back about 6 to 8 months, we were submitting a reimbursement invoice associated with our payroll. As revenue declined because of reduced overall recording activity, the income stream coming into Fund 255 declined along with that. And it became a situation where if we continued on our pattern, we would be requesting a reimbursement in an amount larger than the income. And part of that was by design because we had wanted to move resources out of Fund 255 into our operating account, but we didn't want to completely deplete all of the resources in that fund. And while we don't have a formal rule, I would say that I've been trying to kind of generally follow a guideline of not letting that balance get too low and to withdraw funds from Fund 255 in a more measured and predictable way. And so when we did that, we started submitting only one invoice a month, or if there were sufficient resources, maybe we did 2 invoices a month. But the income stream in today's economy just isn't enough to cover even 2 invoices. So when we met with the state treasurer's office, we said we would like to have some measure of predictability. We don't want to draw the fund completely down. We're not ready to close out the fund, but we don't want to not utilize the resources that are available in the fund. So what we proposed is that we would submit invoices based on the actual income in Fund 255 during the prior month. And this is the first time that we're doing that. So in the previous month, and this actually goes back to November, the income was $42,868, and we're submitting a reimbursement for that income amount, and we're specifying that we're going to be using those funds to pay a portion of the payroll. Now, payroll for the 2 months in December 15th and December 29th, actually is about $60-some thousand. So we didn't have enough money in the income to pay for all of it, but we're just asking for reimbursement equal to the income from the prior month. And that was acceptable as a proposal to the state treasurer's office. So this is the very first month that we're doing this, and our intention is to continue doing it this way. I don't recall what the December income in Fund 255 was, but basically when you get this reimbursement invoice next month, it's going to be the same amount as the income in Fund 255 during the month of December. And we will just continue that pattern until we decide to do something else, or and speaking very optimistically, until the economy rebounds so that we could draw down more funds than what is represented in the current activity. There's probably more information than you wanted, maybe as clear as mud, but that is what we're doing now. This is what we're going to be doing going forward. And this is the first instance of that. And the action that we're requesting is to simply approve the submission of this invoice in this amount to the state treasurer's office. I'll stop. Are there any questions about what we're doing, why we're doing it, or anything about this specific reimbursement invoice? And what I'm showing on the screen right now are the actual payrolls for those 2 days. So the first payroll, which was on December 15th, was in the amount of $32,102, and the payroll on December 29th was $28,068. So clearly we are requesting a reimbursement amount that is less than the actual value of the payroll. Instead, it's targeted to be equivalent to the income coming into that account. And if there are no questions, I would request a motion to approve.
Thank you, Phil, for being so thorough. Could I get a motion?
So moved. This is Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry. Is there a second?
This is Geraldine. I'll second.
Thank you, Geraldine. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion approved. Thank you.
I'm not trying to be a motion hog.
You're a leader.
Me either, so if
Keep the
anybody,
moving meeting going.
If you're ready, we can move on to the regular financial reports.
Yes, I'm ready, Phil. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll start with the Bankers Trust statement. And this is, we're looking back to the month of November now. And at the beginning of November, we had a beginning balance of $1,250,223. We ended with a balance of $1,287,982 and change. And then I'm going to skip down to the financial reports. If anybody has any specific questions, please stop me. The first is the reconciliation of the drawdown account. I'm going to say this just for the benefit of everyone, if she hasn't heard this before, is that there are some customers that we permit to essentially set up an escrow account. They pay us a bunch of money and we hold it in reserve. And then when they do e-submission, then we draw down those funds. And when it hits a certain level, they put more money in. And so this is our way of keeping track of the balance of basically the current liability that we have for those accounts. And this is where we are currently at. The cleared balance for the drawdown fund was $68,514. Then the reconciliation for the bank statement itself is also represented here. And again, we're looking at an ending balance or cleared balance of $1,287,982, which corresponds to the bank statement. The P&L statement, this is a combined statement of both budgeted and revolving income. The overall income for the period of November was $2.610 million. The actual budgeted income for the operation of Iowa Land Records was $108,497 and change. And then looking at the expense side of the equation, for budgeted expenses, we had expenses of $103,191. We did spend $4,000 in reserves. This is associated with our transition to the managed firewall service with LightEdge. Overall expenses were $2,619,000. So we did experience a net loss of $9,388. But that is within the range of ebb and flow of cash flow in our overall system, both for point of sale as well as for e-submission. The thing that we really pay close attention to are the budgeted numbers. So again, we had a budgeted income of $108,000 and change, and the budgeted expenses out of the operating account were $103,000. So this is basically, I would say we were on target where we wanted to be with the budgeted expenses. The balance sheet shows total assets and liabilities of $2,406,000 and change. And then you can see the reserve accounts balances that we have. And we're holding steady at in all the reserves. We're basically holding steady in terms of the unrestricted reserve, the software development redaction reserve, and the restricted operating reserve. I probably mentioned this last month, but we did kind of pick up a vibe, if you will, that some people thought that, we were not in a position to do backfile redaction. And that is not true. Even though the budget is tight, we do have sufficient reserves that if a county does a backfile scanning project, we do have the resources to redact those documents so that they can be made public. Any questions about the operating account, the banker's trust account? Any questions there? When we get to February, then we'll be doing the quarterly and year-to-date end-of-year financial reports. We have made some preliminary steps towards preparing for the 2023 audit. We anticipate that the audit activity is going to occur sometime in April or early May. Moving on to the credit card report, we had a beginning balance, and this again is looking at November. At the time, we had a beginning balance of $6,180. $144 and change, and an ending balance of $3,961. We have previously gone over all of these expenses in prior meetings, but if anybody wants to take a step back and ask a question about any of these, I would be happy to answer them. The credit card statement was successfully reconciled with a core balance of $3,961. So our accounting system is keeping up. And then again, we're looking back at November. You can see we had a beginning balance of $162,974 for Fund 255 is what I'm talking about, and the ending balance of $179,921. And then again, we're looking back to the month of February, but this is where we got the amount of the reimbursement invoice. So there's going to be a match between what you see in Fund 255 balance sheet and P&L statement and the reimbursement invoice going forward until things change. But this is the way we're going to be doing it going forward. Fund 255 was successfully reconciled. The P&L statement matches this, and the balance sheet does as well. That completes the main portion of the financial reports. I'd be happy to answer any questions. After questions, we simply need a motion to accept and approve the financial reports.
This is Geraldine. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Geraldine. Is there a second?
This is Sherry. I can second it.
Thank you, Sherry. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion approved. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to flip back to the agenda real quick. So where we are at is talking about the last set of bullet points relating to the financial and strategic review, and talk a little bit about the metrics and where we're at with the budget, and then talk about some updates relating to some other activities that are going on. So going back to the chart, e-submission trends for as we ended the year. This is not unexpected, but the e-submission activity basically fell back to where we were in 2022, and also even going back to 2019. So below the levels that we had in 2020 and 21. And this is not unexpected. This is what we are experiencing in terms of the real estate market right now. It's not a reflection of a decline necessarily of e-submission activity. It is more of a reflection of overall decline in recording activity and activity in the real estate market, generally speaking. Then, so where does that leave us? So in November, we adopted a budget amendment for the operating account, and now we have reached a point where it is nearly done. Even though we would ordinarily do a year-to-date report at your February meeting, I wanted to give you just at least a preliminary update of where things stand with regard to the overall ESS budget. The budget you approved actually recognized about a $20,000 loss for the calendar year because when we adopted the budget amendment and made all the changes that we made to reduce expenses, it just wasn't quite enough to cover everything. So we've got a bit of a negative balance, and that is borne out by the preliminary financial report. So for the calendar year 2023, the preliminary estimated income will be $1,750,847 and change. And on the expense side of the equation, we will have total expenses of $1,771,432 and change, showing a net loss of $20,585. And that is about where we estimated that we would be when the budget amendment was adopted. There are two outstanding bills that were not received yet when this was reported, and they were for redaction services from CSI, now owned by Tyler Technologies. Those invoices have come in. Typical monthly expense for redaction is about $5,000 right now. So we are probably going to see a final number around negative $30,000 when the final numbers come in. Something that somebody said a while back, I'm not sure which meeting it was, but running a negative number for an annual budget is not something that is commonly accepted within the public sector. And believe me, I'm very cognizant of that. That said, on the other hand, we are so subject to market conditions that it is a challenge to be that precise. And I guess I'm going to just say that I feel like on the expense side of the equation, we have been managing our expenditures. And I think that is going to be reflected in 2024. I would preliminarily project that we're going to end up 2024 with a positive balance. And the reason for that is that changes in expenditure levels that we made at the end of 2023 may not have been enough to put us over the top as we close out 2023. But when you take those into account over the course of the whole year, I think it's going to put us in a pretty stable position. So I want to just frankly and openly talk about that because I don't want anybody to think that that we don't take our budget management seriously. We do. It just did not work out quite as precisely as we had hoped for and planned, because pretty much since the original budget, 2023 budget, was adopted in November of 2022, pretty much every budget action that we had taken in that interim period, we reduced expenses every time, and unfortunately, income has declined at the same time. So it's been a challenge to keep up with, but I'm here to answer any questions that you may have and to take whatever comments you may have. But this is really where we're going to end up, something close to this. Comments or questions?
Phil, it's Lisa. I'm jumping in. If you can see Kelly Spees requesting entry, would you let her in, please?
Yes, I can. Sorry about that. So are there any questions about where we are at or what we have done, or other comments that you would like to make about how we are ending or have ended calendar year 2023 and what we have done and will be doing in 2024?
I just will say that, I'll just say, I read an article recently that was a bit of good news, that the Iowa Association of Realtors felt like that they were starting 24 on an upswing and thought maybe the market was going to continue to get better. So that would be good news.
I think the recent decline in interest rates has had a positive effect. It's not an overwhelming positive, but it does seem to be trending in the right direction. I'm tempering enthusiasm a little bit, just because the latest figures show that inflation is on its way back up. So the Fed's target is around 2%, and inflation is sitting about 3.5%. So we'll see how things settle out. So I would, I'm in the same camp. I want to be optimistic. You know, when you go back and look at you know, what our trend lines were in 2020 and 21, you know, it really isn't going to take much of an upswing to put us in a much better position. And so you have to recognize that, you know, markets do go through cycles. We have definitely been in a down cycle in this most recent period, and you know, we are going to hopefully be in a position to see an upswing. So certainly in terms of our mindset in putting the 2024 budget together, we did sort of take the position that it is likely to be better. And we also took the position that we don't think it would be worse than it is now. So that's how we put the budget together. But we're going to continue to be cautiously optimistic and do things necessary. Lisa and I were talking the other day about things that we would like to do and in this year. And I said, well, I don't know, because we didn't put any money in the budget for it. We cut all that out. And the only way it gets back into the budget is at the February meetings. If things start on an uptick, we could add a few small things back in. But it is a tight budget. And until things change, you know, it will continue to be. One of the things, I'm moving on now, Amy, one of the things that we are doing to put us in a more stable position is that we did make a decision, that is the ESS committee did affirm a decision at their last meeting to authorize us to move the entire Iowa land record system to the cloud and to move away from having it residing on our own equipment. And as I shared with the full committee, you know, this is something that Kelly and I review every cycle. You know, we've had basically 3-4 year cycles of, you know, purchasing equipment, installing it, operating the equipment, buying maintenance agreements, maybe to extend maintenance for a year or two. And then we have to decide, okay, are we going to buy again, or are we going to do something else? And every time that we've had that conversation, the option to move to the cloud was more expensive and more challenging than basically purchasing new equipment. And part of that was, for a period of time, you know, pretty much every cycle, the cost of equipment and storage was going down. Well, we're in a different situation now. The cost for new equipment, new computing equipment, is going up. It's not going down. And the maintenance agreements for the software that we operate, the platform that we have, the cost for those is not going down either. And so when we did the comparison and started having serious conversations about the operation of our firewall, which led to discussions about operations of our storage equipment and our servers, the numbers turned around and said, you know, we think it's going to be overall less expensive to move to the cloud than it is to purchase new equipment, which was going to be coming due in 2024. So we did the analysis. We shared that with you previously, and then took it to the full ESS committee and made a recommendation to do that, and to do it with our current host, which is a data center in Altoona known as Light Edge. We've worked with them for many years, and we think they did a good job of putting this configuration together. And all I really wanted to do was show you, this is the actual service order that we signed to migrate to the cloud. And this is a project that is underway, and we anticipate, based on my most recent discussions with Kelly and the Light Edge team, we anticipate that the migration is going to be implemented as we go through January and be in place by the end of February, perhaps as soon as by the middle of February. And what this puts us in a position to do is basically, I would just say, in some respects, it's like budget billing for Mid-American Energy. We're going to have a stable, know what the expense is, and some of the maintenance and support activities that currently have to be done by Kelly are going to be done by the Light Edge team, with Kelly supervising and overseeing it. I think it will put us in a good position and also help us deal with budget uncertainties as we go forward into future years. So in the packet, I just wanted to share with you so that everybody knew what it was and what it meant, the actual purchase agreement with Light Edge. I'm probably not the best person to answer technical questions about every line item, but on the other hand, I think most of it is fairly self-explanatory. Are there any questions? Stop me, but I'm moving on. So the next thing I want to give you an update on is that we did in fact complete our procurement process for IT support services. This is for the administrative office, not for our developers. We have been served by a company called All Covered for a number of years, and we reached a point where we felt like we could do better in the marketplace. And also we said, is there any way that we can reduce that expense in terms of cost savings for the overall budget? We went through the RFQ process. We ended up choosing our solutions, made that recommendation to the ESS committee in December, and that was approved. And what I'm sharing with you here is the actual purchase agreement with our solutions for their ongoing support services. And I would just say we've been going through the migration to their support services over the last few weeks, and everything I've experienced with them tells me that it's going to be a good decision. And so we basically they're going to be managing our subscription with Office 365 and all of the things that we're going to be storing in the cloud. And from what I've seen so far is they're going to be doing a good job, and we are going to in fact save money. Instead of spending $700 to $1,000 a month for IT support services, it's going to end up being less than $500 a month. So it's not a huge savings, but it is a savings, and I believe at this moment in time that we're going to end up getting better service from them. Part of what I'm sharing with you is also an amendment to the memorandum of understanding between ESS and my company, Enterprise Iowa, about who's responsible for doing what, which reminds me that Nancy and I need to get together and actually sign some documents here pretty soon. But what this essentially says is that the responsibility for the firewall, the switch, and the wireless access infrastructure in my office will be the responsibility of Enterprise Iowa, that you won't be asked to be provide reimbursement for that, and it will reduce the expense for the agreement with our solutions because for this portion of activity, I would be covering that expense. So we codified that in an amendment to the memorandum of understanding, just to make sure everybody knew what was happening. I think looking at the agenda, one of the things that we mentioned is that we have been engaged in a review of our point of sale system. The importance of this was reinforced to us this week because the report that we received from our current provider that we use to determine the distribution out to each county was woefully wrong. They apparently made some system change that caused the report to be in error. And what we experienced this month is that, or in this period, this week, that some counties got more money than they should have and others didn't get any. Not to emphasize that point, but to me, it just reinforced that we have been correct in seeking an alternative. We do have an alternative that we can go to without necessarily going through a full RFP or RFQ process, and that is we already have a relationship with Professional Solutions that's located here in the Des Moines area, not in California. And the analysis that we have done so far suggests that the actual cost to ESS for the point of sale gateway system would end up being about the same or a little less than we're paying right now. But we might end up getting better service because we have an existing relationship with them and they are local, not located in another state. The other thing that has been a part of our review is that we've known that in the background that the current point of sale devices that participating counties are using may be approaching the end of their life. The equipment might still be good, but the software operating it is not going to be supported at some point in the not too distant future. So we're probably looking at a fairly widespread or wholesale change in the point of sale devices, probably sometime, no matter what we do, probably sometime in 2024. And so the question is, how do we handle that? And I don't want to get too carried away with this, but our discussion with Professional Solutions suggests that we could get a substantive discount, I'll put it that way, in replacement devices if we were to make the switch. So it is part of the equation. It's something that we would end up taking to the ESS committee. It could happen at the February meeting of the ESS committee. And I did not want to go through this meeting without at least reporting to you that these potential changes are in the wind. And I didn't have anything in the packet specifically for it, but I wanted to bring it up and just see if anybody had any questions or comments that you wanted to make before we move forward.
I think it's kind of funny, the timing of all this happening when we started talking about it, and then we had this hiccup this week, and you had just sent out the papers regarding the place that's in Des Moines, the local versus the California. I think kind of looks like we should maybe be doing something. Of course, I'm a county that doesn't have any money.
Well, you're not alone.
Right. Do you know how many counties are affected? I mean, are we all affected, or is it just a grouping?
Lisa, how
Not
many
everyone.
participating counties do we have right now?
We have about 95 counties that are participating, but not everyone had transactions that day. And it would appear that some counties are correct and some counties, as Phil said, are woefully wrong. And they received too much money, which is harder to fix than someone who didn't get enough. So Kay and I have the reports. Kay's working on spreadsheets. Phil and I will take a look at them later and then determine how we're going to correct all this. But I'm going to say we have maybe 10 counties that I'm going to take that back. I'm not 100% sure of how many counties are totally affected. Sherry, I know you didn't receive your money, but I know off the top of my head that Mahaska received way too much. So it's a debacle. That's my favorite word this morning.
I
Yeah.
like that word.
I would, I just mentioned if you're not monitoring it, Erin in Boone County has indicated that she has an issue as well. So
Yes,
it's something that should not happen.
right.
It just should never happen. They're supposed to be right. The financial reports we get should be right. And they weren't. So, and I can't say that the customer service response was enthusiastic and helpful either.
That's
So
correct.
so it really does color our judgment on this a lot, especially in contrast with other service providers who really do go above and beyond, to provide good service. So there we are. So if anybody has any other questions about this, or you want to send a note to me offline, I'd be happy to visit with you. But I wanted to make sure that the finance subcommittee knew this was going on, and there could be some action on this at the February ESS meeting. Kind of rounding out the agenda and kind of wrapping things up. I did just want to share with you a quick update on the fee policy and modernization project. You all should have received a document that we've kind of been referring to as a charter to explain what we're doing, what we're trying to do. We did have the first meeting of this group in December, which I think was very constructive. And we've had to adjust the schedule a little bit to accommodate other events, but the next meeting of this group is going to be on January 25th. It too will be a Zoom call, and we're going to be doing some discussion about some survey results, which we will share with everybody, but we just haven't completely written the summary of it yet. But I think one of the takeaways from it, from a messaging perspective, is that yes, we know that if you use the inflation numbers, or if you went online and used the calculators for inflation and said, well, if the recording fee was this back in 1985 or 1984, whatever year that was, what would the value be today? You're looking at a base recording fee of over $20, and for a 4-page document, a recording fee of about $60. But the membership overall, when they came back in their survey results, they didn't say, hey, we need the whole thing. They by comparison, I think, were pretty reasonable in terms of saying, hey, we need to have some adjustment. Nobody was saying, well, we need to go all the way to $20 a page. It was somewhere in between. And I think that sets a good tone and the right message that we can share with stakeholders to say, hey, we're being realistic about this. We aren't going to go crazy, but let's be honest, our costs have gone up and there are things that we want to do. And the fee level that we've got today is just not sufficient to allow us to do that. And so we're going to talk about some of those things at that meeting, and then do some comparisons with recording fees in other jurisdictions, including neighboring states. So looking forward to that discussion. And then I did want to mention that I think it was earlier this week, we distributed a message to all the recorders, letting everybody know that we were going to be forming a couple of small subcommittees, one working with the Surveyors Association, and another that is intended to be a conversation with the auditors, because it is likely that any change in fee policy could have an impact on the auditor's transfer fee, and we want to be in a position to be proactive and upfront about that. And so the last thing I want to mention, and maybe I don't know if Census has audio or not, I know she's monitoring, but there is a plan for a webinar or a meeting that would be open to members of the association to talk about some strategies for advocacy with your local stakeholders and also with your local legislators. So I think a lot of good work is ahead, and I appreciate the work that Stacy and Megan and Nancy have been doing to provide leadership for the group.
All right, thanks, Junior.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Bill. I just want to urge all of you, please connect. If you haven't completed the challenge that required you to start communicating with your legislature, please do so. When we have that webinar, that discussion, part of it is really to prepare the talking points and prepare people for Capitol Day. And as I say, before we make an ask, we need to have soft form of communication. And so I just urge all of you who haven't, do that. I am here, I am meeting them, and they are looking forward to it. And they said, oh yeah, she's with the recorders. And so I want you to know your presence is known, but now make yourself known to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Census. And by the way, Census is coming to us live from the Capitol building this morning, so she's there waving the flag. Nancy, did you want to add anything to this from a president's perspective?
No, I think you covered everything well. I have only got a few responses for the committee. I don't know about you, Census. I've only gotten 2, maybe 3.
I think the only one that I saw, it did come to you and I, which is for the auditors. Which was, I think it was Hannah that.
Aaron.
Well,
Aaron from Boone too, but anyway, I just
Yeah.
wanted to mention if, that we have not gotten a big response yet, but
Okay, well, I just wanted you
and we're not looking for 10 people.
no,
Yeah. So, but we're sharing it because if any member of the finance subcommittee or their district representatives have an interest in those subjects, please get in touch with Nancy and Census, and then we'll start moving forward. And then I think the last thing I would mention is that we are looking to schedule a meeting for Nancy and Stacy and Megan to meet with Bill Peterson and some of the ASAC staff to kind of read them in on what this is all about, and make sure we're all on the same page with them. So that'll be coming up again soon. So
yes. And
I'm sure-
just a quick clarification, Nancy, I meant Katie. Katie Carlton is the one who responded, not Hannah.
Okay, very good. Census and Nancy, I'll let you guys compare notes on that, and we'll figure out who can be designated to serve. So, members of the Finance Subcommittee, do any of you have any questions or comments that you would like to add before I hand it back to Amy so you can adjourn? If there are no questions, I don't have anything further, Amy. I would
Alrighty.
hand it back to you.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you again for being so thorough and everything. If there's no other comment, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
better. Thank you. This is Sherry. I'll move.
Thank you, Sherry. Is there a second?
Mel, I can second it.
Thank you, Mel. If there is any other comments, is there a motion? If everybody, aye, sorry.
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. No one opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Meeting is, over. Sorry.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Amy.
Stay safe out there and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye.